What's up, everybody? So today I'm going to be showing you how to create props and objects and fun stuff for settlement building in Fallout 4. There's not a whole lot to say in this intro. Not much has really changed. I do want to mention though that I have been making community posts with a poll on each upload for you to vote for the next video that I make. I intend on continuing that trend until you all tell me that you don't care anymore. But if you don't like any of the options that you see on the poll, still throw a vote because those are the options for the week. But leave a comment on either this video or some other video or the poll or whatever, and let me know what videos you do want to see. That's how I actually started modding for Fallout 4. Somebody asked me to make a tutorial on how to make weapon mods, and I was like, that's a good idea. I guess I'll do that. So I did it. I do read all the comments. Whether I respond to them or not is a different story, but I do read all of them. If you do have an idea, I will see it, and I might pick it. The support that you guys have been showing me has been fantastic. I do really appreciate it. The channel is growing really steadily, which I'm super psyched about. I'm glad that we're kind of building a little community here and that you guys are really liking the stuff that I put out, and I appreciate that. If you guys want to help out even more, all I ask is for a like to boost this in the algorithm or whatever, and a subscribe if you're feeling it. Beyond that, just the comments and the interaction has been really awesome, and I have been really enjoying it. With that being said, don't forget to like, subscribe, and leave a comment letting me know what you guys want to see next time, and go ahead and vote on the community poll. Other than that, let's get into it. Alright, first things first, as always I want to go over the required tools. Like last time, I created my script in a way that it can be uploaded as a separate PDF with all the information so you can create your assets, your props, your containers, your furniture, whatever you want to make just by reading this if you wanted to, or if you need something written to follow along with this. There's this here as well for you to look at. It has links to everything for the required tools, as links to tool alternatives, and to additional resources in case you don't know anything about Blender or Substance Painter or whatever. Like I said, we're going to be going over the required tools first. First thing you're going to need to use is Blender. There are other 3D modeling softwares, but this tutorial is best followed with Blender because we'll be using some add-ons that are specifically for Blender. I do highly recommend using Substance Painter if you can, but there are other options like Quixel Mixer, which I know is great and it's free, and Armor Paint, which is only $20. I don't recommend Mudbox as much because I haven't personally used it and I don't know a lot of people who have, and it's also pretty expensive. But if Mudbox is your thing and you're already on it, go ahead and use it. Then there's Photoshop or GIMP. This one is probably the least required out of all of them, Photoshop or GIMP. You can use either. I mean, I recommend Photoshop just because you can follow along with the tutorial one for one. But I know that GIMP is great, it has its own DDS plugin, and I believe that Paint.net has native DDS support. So either one, GIMP or Paint.net, I have them both linked. They're free. They're awesome. But you're also going to need the PyNifly Blender add-on. Will just allow us to import and export our Nifs directly to Blender. You of course need NifScope, BAE, which we'll be using to unpack the vanilla files and get reference Nifs and materials and stuff like that. You're also going to need the Fallout 4 creation kit. You can get it from Steam. Highly recommend getting it from Steam just because you can, because it updates automatically and it's just easier. You can get it from Bethesda.net if you do want to. Then there's also the Fallout material editor. We'll be needing that to make materials for our props. And then you're going to need the TextureWorks DDS plugin for Photoshop. There is the GIMP DDS plugin if you're using GIMP, and like I said before, I believe that Paint.net has native DDS support, but I could be wrong on that one. But if you are using Photoshop, you're going to want the TextureWorks DDS plugin. Beyond that, there are additional resources if you're not super familiar with Blender and you want to get more used to it. There's a great tutorial playlist here by Grant Abbott. Love the dude. He's awesome. He makes awesome tutorials. And then there's the Substance Painter Basics tutorial. This one's great. I used it a while ago when I was first learning Substance Painter, and it's fantastic. Goes through pretty much everything you really need to know. But other than that, we are going to just jump straight into the tutorial and getting our Nif file. Alright, so the first thing you're going to want to do is open up BAE. Then you're going to want to go up to File, Open File, go to your Fallout 4 directory, click on Data, and then scroll down until you see the Fallout 4 meshes.ba2, and then click Open. From here, you're going to click Select None, just to make sure we're not exporting a bunch of stuff that we don't want. And then you're going to think for a second what exactly you're going to be making. Whether you're making like a terminal, a chair, a chest, whatever you're making, you're going to want to try and find Fallout 4's vanilla version. So if you're making a chair, think about what kind of chair you're making. Are you making like a wheelie chair, or are you making just like a dining chair or something like that? Whatever you're making, you're going to want to type in the name of it. So in this case, I'm making a terminal, so I'm going to type in terminal. And then I'm going to scroll down until I can find the terminal 01 right here. But again, whatever you're making is probably going to be different. You're probably not going to be making a terminal or whatever. You're going to go ahead and just find whatever it is that you're making to make this easier on yourself. Another thing to keep in mind, though, is that you want something that is a similar size to what you're making, not just a one-for-one alternative. So, like, if you're making a terminal like I am, but it's going to be 3 times the size of the normal vanilla terminal, you don't want to use that one. And that's going to be important later when we're transferring our collisions over. It's more important for you to find something to use as a size reference, so something that's going to be the same size as what you're making, rather than it being exactly the same as what you're making, if that makes sense. But in my case, the terminal that I'm making is very similar to the size of this terminal here, so I'm going to be selecting this one. Once you have the vanilla Nifs that you want to extract selected, you're going to go ahead down here and click Extract. And then you're going to want to make a folder to keep all of your Nifs in. I'm just going to put mine on my desktop here in a new folder. I'm going to call it Tutorial Nifs. But you can call it like Vanilla Assets or whatever. The new folder that you create, double click on it and then click Select Folder. And then we can minimize BAE because we will be coming back to it later. Anyways, go ahead and open up the Tutorial Nifs folder. And if you go into it, you can see that your Nif that you extracted should be right there. The next thing you're going to want to do is go ahead down to the description, or it's linked in the tutorial document. And you're going to want to go to the PyNifly Blender Export Import Addon Nexus page. Like I said, it's linked in the tutorial document and in the description. But you're going to want to go here. You're going to want to click File, and then you want to click Manual Download. Once it's downloaded, I recommend just throwing it on your desktop for now, just to make it easy. You can go ahead and close this. Then you're going to open up Blender, delete all the stuff in the scene like normal, go up to Edit, Preferences, then you're going to click Install. Navigate to wherever you threw the zip file for the add-on. Mine's on my desktop, like I said. You're going to click on the zip file and then click Install Add-on. Yours should show up something like this. I have a NIF add-on specifically for Morrowind, so this won't show up for you, but this is the one that we're looking at specifically. It's just called Import Export NIF Format. That's it. It's going to show up unchecked for you, but because I already installed it, mine's already checked. All you'll do is just click the check mark, and then it'll be enabled. Then go ahead and close that. Now we are going to be able to import our NIF. To do that, all you do is go up to File, Import, and then Nif File with nifly.nif. Then navigate to the folder where you extracted your NIF to. Mine's in Tutorial Nifs. And then click on the NIF that you want to import, and then click Import NIF with Nifly. There you go, it's right there. And now with this imported, you can use it as a size reference for whatever it is that you're making to make sure that it's not going to be like a crazy big or crazy small in game. And obviously, you don't have to follow it one for one. It doesn't have to fit perfectly inside of this. Just you want it generally the same size as your reference NIF. And again, that's going to be super important when we're moving on to collisions later, because we're going to be taking collisions from this NIF and putting it onto our mesh. Anyways, with your guys' NIF importing, you can go ahead and begin modeling. However, I'm not going to show you the modeling for the props that I made for this tutorial. I I don't want to waste a ton of time just showing you guys that. I want to kind of keep this video pretty concise, so I'm not wasting any of your guys' time, so you can just jump into making whatever it is that you want to make. However, I do want to go over a couple little things with the modeling that I think are important to point out. There's just two things. The first one is poly count. You're going to want to make sure that you're keeping your poly count like pretty low. That goes for pretty much any sort of assets that you're making for games or anything like that. And if you're used to making assets for games, then that should be pretty easy for you. But if you're not, keeping your poly count low is one of the most crucial things that you can do to make sure that you're not bogging down the game engine with a bunch of unnecessary geometry. A good example of that is like here, I'll show you. I have many pieces here that, I mean, if you can't see the faces, I just didn't include them. And mine is pretty low poly, like pretty low poly. I know that you can probably go a little bit higher than this. I just recommend trying to keep it as low as humanly possible, just because it makes the game engine a lot happier when you do. I'm going to say, as a general rule of thumb, whatever the triangle count is for your reference Nif, try and meet that or get below it. That's a pretty good rule to follow, unless you're making something like super crazy and complex. Just try and follow that rule. If you can't, that's okay. If you go over, that's okay. Just do your best. If you do want to be able to look at your poly count, like I have over here, this isn't an add-on or anything. This is actually something the Blender does by default. All you got to do to enable it is go up here to these two little circles. It's the overlay panel. Click the arrow next to it, and then click the statistics box. Checking it on and off just makes it so you can see your poly count on any model that is currently loaded up in your viewport. The next thing I want to mention is materials. Trying to cut down on the amount of materials that you're using wherever and whenever you can is great. For this one model alone, I have 3 different materials. However, 2 of them are vanilla materials. This one is the one for the typewriter, and then this is the one for the holotapes. So I don't really count those. But everything else is loaded onto one material map. All of this geometry is included into one texture map. When creating your material, you want to make sure that you're assigning as many pieces, as many props to one material as you can, just to cut down the amount of texture maps that your game is going to have to load up whenever you're creating objects. General rule of thumb when deciding if something needs its own texture maps or if it can be added onto an existing material is by looking at the textile density of the vanilla meshes and just seeing where they're at. If you can strive to hit that textile density or lower or higher, that's great. There is also something called hero props. If you have this like super important and significant prop that the player is going to be seeing like all the time, it's going to be right up in their face, it's okay to make your own its own textures for that, because you also want to make sure that it doesn't look bad. You know, you're not making stuff that's going to look bad or nasty or anything like that. You want to make sure that everything that you're making still looks good. So find that balance between performance and aesthetics. That's the most important part. All right, moving on to the export. Once you've finished creating your mesh and you're ready to export, there's going to be 2 different exports that we do. One of them is going to be a NIF, and then one of them is going to be exporting as an FBX for Substance Painter. You're going to want to do the NIF export first, just because we'll be Vertex Painting for Substance Painter, and if you export with Vertex Paints, if you export as a NIF with Vertex Painting on, it exports those colors and then it just looks funky and you don't want that. So we're going to do the NIF first. You're going to want to select all the pieces of your mesh that you want exported as a NIF. And then you're going to want to go up to File, Export, and then Nif File to Nifly.NIF. Then you're going to want to store it somewhere safe. I'm going to put it in here. Actually, I'm going to put it in New, Meshes, and then Terminal.NIF. I'm going to make a test one. I'm going to make a tutorial one just because I don't want to override the one that I currently have. I'm going to want to name it, generally speaking, when it comes to Fallout 4 naming conventions. The name of the NIF is usually just the name of the object that you're creating. So you can go ahead and just name it whatever the object is. In my case, it's a makeshift terminal. So that's what I'm going to name it. And then going to want to make sure that for target game, you have Fallout 4 set. If you have any other game set, it's not going to act nice when we're trying to mess with it later. And then you click Export NIF. And there you go. Now you're done. Now your NIF is exported. Now we're going to do some vertex painting for Substance Painter. The reason that we're going to do that is because in Substance Painter, we're going to be creating an ID map. Because we have everything on one material, it's going to be hard to kind of separate all of our different textures throughout the model. So making an ID map makes it so you can easily just drag and drop materials onto different parts of the colors, different parts of the mesh using the colors that are generated through the ID map and vertex painting. So to do that, I'm going to hide these two pieces here because they're not going to will not be going with us Substance Painter, and I'm just going to be focusing on that. First thing you're going to want to do is go up to here to Object Mode, and then change it to Vertex. Once in Vertex Painting mode, you're going to want to click Tab, which will bring you into Edit mode, and then you're going to select the faces that you want to paint. I have mine UV unwrapped with seams and everything, so this is pretty easy for me. Yours should probably be something like this and be pretty easy to just grab the different faces. To do that, I'm just going to be hovering over the faces that I want selected and then clicking L, but you can just click them manually by going like this or dragging selecting them or whatever you want to do, but you just want to select the faces that you want to paint. Hit Tab to go back into Vertex Painting mode. Then up here where we changed to this painting mode, there's a little square button here called Paint Mask. You're going to want to click that. Now you're going to want to click this drop down with the colors. Yours will be white. It'll look something like that. But you're just going to want to pick any color. Doesn't really matter. Then hold down Shift and then click K, as in kangaroo. And then it will fill all those faces that you selected with the color that you selected. And then you're going to want to continue doing that for all your different pieces. Try and keep it so faces that you want to be the same texture are the same color. So now we're going to go, we selected all those, we're going to go back into Vertex Painting mode, change the color, Shift K, back into Edit mode, and this, as you guys do it, it becomes like second nature, becomes really quick and really easy. So I'm going to come back once I finish Vertex painting this whole thing. Alright, and then this is my Vertex painted models. I have it set up so they're all different pieces, so when we bring it into Substance Painter, we can easily isolate the different pieces just to make sure that there's no normal map bleeding or artifacting or anything like that. So if you're doing it, if you do have a high poly mesh, I highly recommend that you do this, where you set it up so each one of these pieces is an individual piece, and then you're going to want to, when you name that piece, you're going to want to name it the name, whatever that piece is, so in this case it's the battery, and then do it so it's underscore low. And then same thing for the high poly mesh. Whenever you have the high poly mesh, you're going to name it the exact same thing, then underscore high. And you'll see why when we get into Substance Painter. This mesh here, it's fully vertex painted. Just to show you, it's got all of its vertex painting on it. Now that it's vertex painted, it's ready for export. So you're going to want to select all the low poly meshes, go up to File, Export, FBX. Then you can make yourself a new folder for it. I am going to call it texturing tutorial. Double click on that. Give it a new name. Call it makeshift terminal, and then underscore low because it's the low poly one. Then we're going to create an operator preset, but to do that we need to first set up our settings. So for Substance Painter, you want to click Mesh, make sure that only Mesh is selected. Then click Selected Objects, and then turn off Bake Animation. This one's not nearly as important, but it just makes sure that it's not storing a bunch of useless information, because we don't have any animations to bake. Then once you have all those settings, you can go up here, this plus button, click plus, and type the name Substance Painter, and click OK. Now, if we ever change any of these settings or anything like that, mess it all up, that means when we go up here to the operator presets, we can just click on our Substance Painter preset, and it automatically sets it all to how we need it. Then you can click Export FBX. Now, we need to do the high poly. So, here's our high poly. Gonna go ahead and do the exact same thing. File, Export, FBX. Name it the exact same thing as the other one, but this time we're gonna give it the suffix of _high. And then the settings that you have, the settings that you made for the low poly export should still be there, but in case they're not, that's why you made your operator preset. You can go up here and just click Substance Painter. Then everything should be good, and then you click Export FBX. With your meshes exported, you're ready to jump into Substance Painter. First thing you're going to want to do in Substance Painter is go up to File, click New. For document resolution, you can set it to either 2448 or 4096. I recommend 2048 just because everything loads faster and makes texturing a little bit more streamlined. You can even set it to 1024, but it won't really give you a very good idea of what your textures are going to look like when they're exported to higher resolutions. So I recommend it staying at 2K if you can. Then for File, you're going to want to click Select. Click your low poly mesh and click Open. For template, make sure that it's set to PBR specular glossiness, start your assets, and then click OK. Once it's loaded up, you can click F8 to go to the Bake tab, or you can click this little croissant in the top right. Once in the Bake settings, go ahead for output size, just do 4K. Then in the Mesh Map Bakers, for the 3 little lines, go ahead and click on those, and then click Deselect All Mesh Maps. Then check your ID map, click on it, color source, Vertex color. Go back to Common Settings, then click Bake Selected Textures. With that finished, now I'm going to show you how to bake without a high poly mesh. If you do have a high poly mesh, skip to that section. If you don't, watch this section. First thing you're going to want to do is click Use Low Poly Mesh as High Poly Mesh. Then you're going to want to go down to Anti-Aliasing, Super Sampling 4 times. You can go higher, but I don't really think it makes much of a difference. But if you like it, go ahead and go higher. For Match, click By Mesh Name. Then for these 3 little lines, click Invert Selection of Maps, uncheck Opacity. Go down to Ambient Occlusion. Under Self-Occlusion, change it to Only by Mesh Name. Then for Thickness, Self-Occlusion, only same mesh name. Bent Normals, Self-Occlusion, only same mesh name. Back to Common Settings, and then click Bake Selected Textures. Alright, and once your textures are baked, you can go ahead and go back to the painting section by clicking the paintbrush or clicking F9. If you do have a high poly mesh, first thing you're going to want to do is under the High Definition Meshes box, click the File button, and then click your high poly mesh, and then click Open. If you have red on your mesh like I do, you're going to mess with the max frontal distance and then the max rear distance until it looks right. I recommend going with the frontal distance first because that usually tends to be the issue, but it may be a rear distance issue. So go ahead and mess with both until the red goes away. Once you have little to no red, a little bit like that down there really isn't a big deal. But once you have little to no red on your mesh, go down to Anti-Aliasing, Super Sampling 4 times. Personally, I don't go any higher than 4 times usually. You can if you want though. I just don't think it makes too big of a difference in my textures, but it may be different for you. If you want to go higher, go higher. Under Match, click at the drop down and click By Mesh Name. Then in Ambient Occlusion, under Self-Occlusion, click Only by Same Mesh Name. Same thing for Thickness, Self-Occlusion, only same mesh name. Then Bent Normals, Self-Occlusion, only same mesh name. Back to Common Settings, and then click Bake Selected Textures. Alright, and once your bake is finished, you can go ahead and go back to the painting section by clicking the little paintbrush in the top right or clicking F9. And now you are ready to texture. I'm not going to be showing the texturing process in this video because, again, I don't want to waste your guys' time. I want you to be able to just jump into it, start making cool stuff. But if you do want to learn how to use your ID map, I'll go ahead and show you that real quick. First thing you're going to want to do is go ahead and find a smart material. Find any one that you want to use. I'm just going to drag on a random one. Just do this one. Once it's dragged on, go ahead and right click on it, Layers tab, then click Add Mask with Color Selection. Down here in the Properties panel, under Colors, click Pick Color, and then click the area that you want the material applied to. So I'm going to click here. And now it's only going to show up on the faces that I selected. And you can add multiple different ones to this. It doesn't just have to be one color. You can add as many colors as you want. If you decide that you want to change it and you don't want it in that spot, go ahead and just click the minus button on the color that you don't want it on anymore. That's all you have to do to use the ID map. It's pretty awesome, pretty simple, and an amazing tool for texturing. And once you finish making your super awesome textures, you're going to want to go up here to File, then Export Textures. If you're a hotkey sort of dude or dudette, you can do Control-Shift-E, and it'll bring up this panel just the same. First thing we're going to want to do is make our output template if you don't have one already. This is super easy to do. Go to the output template section, and then click the plus button. Double click on the new one. I'm going to put in Fallout 4 spec gloss. I'm going to go 2 for mine because I already have one. First thing we're going to make is the diffuse map. You're going to want to click on RGB plus A. In here, rename this to $ texture set _D. So now, whenever we export it, it will be the name of our texture set, and then _D for diffuse. Then over here in the input maps, you're going to want to find the diffuse, drag it onto the RGB channel, and then click RGB channels. Next, we're going to be creating the normal map. Go ahead and click, for the output maps, click RGB. Rename it to $ texture set _N. Then we're going to go over here to normal DirectX, drag it onto RGB, then click RGB channel. Last one is the specular. For this one, we're going to be clicking R plus G plus B. It's going to separate all the channels for us. Rename it to $ texture set _S for specular. All right. First, we're going to want to find the specular in the input maps, drag it onto the R, and then click R channel. Then you're going to want to find your glossiness map in the input maps, drag it onto the G, and then click gray channel. And now your output template is finished, and you can use it. You're going to go back to the settings. Where it says output template, you're going to want to select the output template that you just created. Under file type, you're going to want to change it to Targa. Then for the output directory, you're going to want to put it in a folder that you'll easily be able to find it in later. In my case, we're just going to throw it in a new folder here, called tutorial, then click select folder. Last thing you might want to mess with is the size. By default, it's set based at the texture set size, so whatever size that you set whenever creating your initial file. I recommend exporting at 2K or higher. If you are going to export at 4K, I do recommend adding a 2K option because not everyone's computer can handle 4K textures. But if you don't want to have to bother making multiple different uploads, making multiple different files on the Nexus, just upload at 2K. Almost everybody's computer can handle that. It should be fine. I do not recommend exporting at 8K textures. There's really no reason to make 8K textures. I don't know anybody's computer will handle that particularly well, and it's just kind of pointless. So keep it to 4K or 2K, preferably 2K. Then you're just going to click export. Once your export is finished, you're going to want to go ahead and close out Substance Painter and open up Photoshop. If you're not using Photoshop, you're going to want to go ahead and open up GIMP or Paint.net or whatever it is that you're using. Alright, with Photoshop open, the next thing you're going to want to do is navigate to the directory in which you exported your textures to. Then, I have extra ones here. You're only going to have these 3 maps. These are for the other meshes that I made for this tutorial. You'll see those later. But the one that we're focusing on right now is for these 3 textures. I'm going to select them and then click enter to open them all up in Photoshop. With them opened up in Photoshop, we're going to be exporting them all individually. To that, I'm going to go up to File, Save As. This is the specular map. So we're going to change the file save as type to Intel TextureWorks.dds. Then you're going to want to pick wherever you're saving the DDSs to. I'm going to save them in this folder here. Make sure that is the name of your object or the texture set name _s, then click save. This box that pops up, you're going to want to make sure that the texture type is set to normal map. This is not a normal map, but what we care about is the compression type that it's using, which is the BC5_U 8BPP, but you're going to set it to texture type, normal map, compression, BC5_U. Then for mip maps, I'm going to click auto generate and then click OK. Then I'm going to go over to the normal map, same thing, file, save as, navigate to the folder you want to save it to, change the file type to Intel TextureWorks.dds, click save. And then for the normal map, we're using the exact same export settings, texture type, normal map, compression, BC5_U, and then mip maps, auto generate. Then click OK. Last but not least, we have the diffuse map, file, save as, navigate to the folder you're going to save it to, save as type, Intel TextureWorks.dds, click save. Now this is where we change things. The texture type, you're going to want to click color. Compression, I recommend going with the BC1 for BPP, linear. If you're noticing artifacting or anything like that, or the colors are off or something's not looking right about it, you can bump it up to BC7, 8 BPP, linear. If you can get away with the BC1, I do recommend it. Having higher compression means lower file sizes, which is always a better thing to have. But for our purposes today, we're going to go with BC1. Then for mip maps, click auto generate and then click OK. And now they are converted to DDSs. So the next thing you're going to want to do is go ahead and open up your Fallout 4 directory, quick access to it. So I'm going to open up through there, go into data, and then here you're going to be creating some folders. First thing we're going to want to do is go into the meshes tab. You're going to want to create a unique modding folder just for you. So this is where all of your mods are going to go. All of the meshes for your mods are going to go. So mine is NL mods. We're going to create a new one today for tutorial purposes, and we're going to call it tutorial. Then double click on that, and then add in another new folder that's the name of your object or your mod or whatever it is. So I'm making a makeshift terminal, so we're going to type in that. All right, and then now there's nothing in this, but that's okay. I'm going to go back to the meshes, and then the tutorial folder that you created, just go ahead and Control-C, copy it, go back to your data folder. Then for textures, we want the exact same thing. In here, we want a tutorial folder, which will be our overall modding folder, whatever you called it. And then you're going to also want the specific folder for the specific mod. We just created that, so instead of having to, do all those little things, we can just paste it in here. Then it's the exact same thing. It's all empty, so you're not copying over any files or anything, just the folder structure. And then same thing for materials, going to go in here, and you're going to paste it on in. There we go. Now, go to where you made the textures folder, so back into data, textures, tutorial, makeshift terminal, or whatever you named it. You're going to want to open up the directory in which you save the DDS files, not the target, the DDS. And then you're going to want to drag and drop them into the texture folder that you just created. And now, I said earlier that we were going to be using BAE again, and now it's time for that. So, BAE open, clear out anything that you already have in there, click select none, go up to File, Open, navigate to your Fallout 4 directory, Data, and then scroll down until you find Fallout 4-materials.ba2, and then click Open. With that open, go ahead and click Select None, because you don't want those. And then you can grab pretty much any material. I recommend grabbing the material from the reference Nif that you grabbed earlier. So I grabbed a terminal. So let's see if there's a material specifically for the terminal. There is. Computer terminal 01. Yep, that works. And then we're going to click Extract. Once you have all the materials that you want selected. And then we're going to go to the folder on the desktop that we created earlier. tutorial Nifs, and then click select folder. Now it should be exported into that folder. There you go, we have it right there. With this folder open, now you're going to want to rename it to whatever your mesh is. So mine is the makeshift terminal. You're going to want to copy it, open up your FO4 directory, go to data, materials, our modding folder, and then our specific mod folder, and then paste it on in there. With that pasted in there, we're going to open it up. You should have material editor. You should have the material editor installed. If you don't, you can find a link to it in the description down below. After you install it for the first time, double click on one of these BGSM files. It's not going to open up right away. You're going to want to right click it, then click open with, and then it'll have like choose another app, and then you just scroll down to see material editor. Just set it to always. So anytime that you ever want to open up one of these materials, just go ahead and double click on it, and then boom, it's open. All right. Now that we have the material open though, we're going to be changing out these for our textures. So first for the diffuse, click on these three little dots here, go into FO4, data, textures, then the modding folder that you created, specific mod folder that you created, and then select the diffuse texture that we just dragged in, and then click open. And then same thing for the other ones, normal map, and then specular. All right, and now there is an environment tab. I do recommend just throwing in a cube map just for the hell of it. It does make your textures usually look a little bit better. If you don't have a cube map right off the top of your head, that's fine. Go ahead and just use this one here, shared cube maps, Mippler, default outside one.dds. It's a pretty good all-around one, especially for metal stuff. It usually looks pretty decent. But once that's done, click File, and then click Save. Then you can close that out. Close out our reference folder, and then now we have that. With our material created, now we're going to be finally editing the NIF files that we created. In this one, if you followed around for my weapon tutorial, creating the NIF files was super annoying, super difficult. Everybody hated it. I hated it. Just because it's really tedious and there's a lot of things that can break. Thankfully for these ones, we're just adding collisions, and it actually tends to be really, really easy and super just straightforward. So to do that, we're going to be opening up the directory for our NIF files, and then wherever we saved our reference NIF files. I'm going to be using the collisions from this metal box for my terminal. All right, and I'm going to be using the collisions from this metal box NIF. It just happens to be about the same size as the terminal that I made. So you're going to want to open up the reference NIF. Then you're going to want to navigate to wherever you exported your NIFs to earlier. Minor and project files, FO4 mods. Then you're going to want to open up the NIF that you exported. And just drag them side by side. Make your life easy. All right, so now we have our metal box. We have our NIF over here. First thing we're going to want to do is get the BSXFlags. So to do that, you're going to open up the 9 node on the reference NIF. Look around until you see the BS flags. It's usually right at the top. Then you're going to right click on it, lock, copy. Then on your 09 node on your NIF that you created, right click on it, block, paste. Now we're going to be adding in the actual collisions itself. First thing we're going to be adding is the bhkPhysicsSystem. You're going to want to look around in your NIF, in the reference NIF, until you can find the bhkNPCCollisionObject, because that's where we're going to be finding all of our collision data. Sometimes it's kind of hidden in these NIFs. Just go ahead and tab through all these until you can find it. If you can't find it, sometimes they don't have collisions. So you're going to have to pick another NIF that does have collisions and is still roughly the same size. Find the bhkNPC collision object, open it up, and then you'll find the bhkPhysicsSystem. Right click on that, go to block, and then copy. Then close up the 9 node on your NIF, and then somewhere in the empty space in the block list, right click, block, paste. Then we're going to be adding in the bhk NPC collision object. In your reference Nif, click that, right click, block, copy. Then on the 09 node on your object, click on that, right click, block, paste. All right. Now you can close your reference Nif. We don't need this anymore. We're focusing on this guy. So, you're going to go to the bhk NPC collision object that you just brought in. Under target, you're going to want to change this value to 0. And then for data, you're going to want to double click on it and then put in 11 or whatever the number for your bhkPhysicsSystem object is. So this node is node number 11 for me, so I'm going to change it to 11. And then it should disappear. That's okay. It just went right under here, under the NPC collision object. And so now collisions actually should be working. It's really that simple. But the next thing we're going to do is going to be adding in the textures and materials. So to do that, you're going to want to click on the mesh itself. So I have 3 different meshes here. I'm only going to be focusing on the main one here because this is the one that I created the textures for. The other 2 have vanilla textures. Anyways, click on your object in the Nif scope viewport. Then click the drop down. You should see BS lighting shader property. Click down that one, and then you should see BSS shader texture set. Click on that. So now all of these should be empty for you. And it does matter what line you put into which texture line, because each one of these is a specific thing. So this first one is the diffuse. So you're going to want to make sure that you have the file path for your diffuse texture, and you can easily find that by opening up the Fallout 4 directory, going to data, textures, your mod folder, and then the specific mod folder that you created. And then to get the file path, click on the address bar, and then it has it right there. And what we want is the textures, my case tutorial, and then makeshift terminal. Copy all that, double click on the first one, paste that in. Then we're going to add in another backslash and then give it the name of the texture that we created. So in my case, it would be makeshift terminal _D. So that's exactly what we're going to type. Makeshift terminal _D and then .dds because that's the file path. Or that's the file type. And then click out of it, and now it should be popping up. Then, since you already have the entire path here, you can just go ahead and double click this, and then copy everything before the _DDS, _D.dds. Just copy that. Then the next one, this one is going to be your specular map. So double click on that, paste that in, then _s.dds. All right. Then we're going to want to count down to the 5th line. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This is where you'll type in an environment map if you have one. Or, I'm sorry, a cube map if you have one. You're going to want to set it as the same one as you set in the material editor. If you don't have a cube map, that's fine. Don't add one in. If you do have a cube map, you're going to add that one in here, and it's going to be the exact same. It's going to be the exact same string as what you typed into the material editor. All right. From there, you're going to want to count down to line 8. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And then this is where your normal map goes. So again, going to want to grab the file path, 6, 7, 8. Double click on it, and do _n.dds. All right, now you can click File, Save. Last thing you're going to want to do is go to the header section here, click Header. Then under Strings, you should have template / outfit template _wet.bgsm. This is going to be the material for this guy, for this texture set that we were just editing here. You're going to want to change this to the file path for your material, and you can get it the same way that you got the file path for the textures. Going to go to your Fallout 4 directory, data, materials, mod folder, specific mod folder, And then in here is where you can find it. I'm gonna grab everything from materials after. And we're going to paste it on in. And same thing as before. You're going to want to type in the name of the file. And then this time it's not a DDS, it's a .bgsn. Then click enter. Oops. Click out of that. Then click file, save again. Now you're done. Now this is a finished Nif. This will work in game, this will have collisions, this will look pretty, this is everything. This is a working Nif in game. And so now, this is what you'll do for any objects that you're creating. If you're creating, more than just this guy, you're going to want to repeat this process for all the ones that you're making. But if you're only making one, go ahead and now we can jump over to the creation kit to finish off this mod. And before you hop into the creation kit, there's one more thing that you're going to want to do. You're going to want to navigate to your Fallout 4 directory. You're going to want to go to Data, Meshes, then the folder that you created earlier for your mods, and then the specific mod folder, and then drag in the Nifs that you just created, that you just added collisions to and textures and all that sort of stuff. This is going to make sure that it's able to be read in game, because if you have it floating around in a random folder somewhere on your computer, it's not going to be able to be read in game, and then blah, 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 blah. Just throw it into the folder that we created earlier, and now you're ready to jump into the creation kit. All right, once you have the creation kit open, you're just going to want to go ahead and go up to File, Data, and then double click fallout4.esm, and then click OK. That's going to be loading up our master files. Now that we have the creation kit all loaded up, you can see here that I have 2 object windows. I find it super useful to have 2, but creation kit doesn't come like this by default. To get a second object window, I'm just going to close this one out. All you're going to want to do is right click on the existing object window and then just click create new object window. And then boom, you got a second one. I find it super useful to have a second one, but I mean, you don't have to have one. It's up to you. All right. So this is going to be broken up into 3 different sections. I'm going to, well, technically 4. So I'm going to be showing you how to make a static prop, a container, and a piece of furniture. In this case, specifically a chair. And then at the end, I'm going to be showing you how to make one constructible object, which is what Fallout 4 kind of reads to actually be able to say this is a workshop item, this is what you need to construct it, this is where it goes, blah 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 blah. I'm only going to be showing you how to create one of those because it's the exact same process for the other 2, but I will be showing you how to create the static prop, container, and furniture piece separately. So to start off, we're going to be making the prop. So the first thing you're going to want to do is navigate over to your object window. Under World Objects, I'm going to click the Static menu. Then in here, you can click anywhere, right-click, and then click New. Here, you're going to want to click the ID. Type in, usually I use a suffix for every single form that I create that's specific to me and the mods that I make. Mine is NLM. It stands for Noah Long's Fellow Mods. But yours can be anything. It could be John Smith mods or whomever. And then underscore, and then this is where I type in the name of the object or whatever it is that I'm creating. So in this case, it is the makeshift terminal. And then for display name, you're going to want to type in the name of the object. So this is the makeshift terminal. Next, we're going to be going down to the model. Click Edit. Then click Edit again. And then you're going to want to find wherever your terminal is, or your NIF is that you created. Then click Open. Once you have it loaded up, just go ahead and click OK. And then it should show up right here as well. What you're going to want to do to make sure that this is working as a workshop item, you're going to want to go over here to Preview Transform, right under the Object Preview box. Click on it, and then just type in workshop. And then find an item that you think is probably going to be about roughly the same size as your object. Usually I end up just using the preview transform for the reference object that I created, or the reference Nif that I used for the collisions. So in this case, it would be the metal box. I don't know where it is off the, oh, there it is right there. No, that's not it. Oh, yep, there it is. So I'm just going to be using the metal box transform. It's going to zoom way out and look all kind of funny. You can't trust how it looks in here because this is not at all how it looks in game. This is just dictating how it's going to show up whenever you whenever it's seen in like the little box that like where like circles around in the settlement menu. But anyways, just pick a preview transform that you think is going to fit right. If it doesn't end up fitting right, you can go ahead and come back in here and change it to another one that you think might fit better. It's all up to you. And that's it for creating the static object. Right now we could create a constructible object and have this working in game. But one thing I do want to mention first is if you want this to be able to like sit on top of like tables and shelves and stuff like that, you do have to do one extra thing. Go over here to actor values and then right click and click new. And here you're going to type in ground. And then you'll see workshop anything is ground. Click that and click OK. Set the value to 1. Click OK. And then now whenever you're placing it in game, it will snap to like tables and like shelves and counters and stuff like that. And it's not always just going to be clipping through everything, only sitting on like the actual ground. I'm not going to lie to you. That right there is the reason that this video did not come out on time. Is because I spent 3 days trying to figure out why exactly that wasn't working. And I wanted it to be working before I put out the tutorial, and I just couldn't figure it out until finally I don't remember how, I just stumbled across it in the creation kit, and I was like, oh, that looks funny. I'll just add that to mine, and then it ended up working. So, but here we are. If you wanted to snap to things, to like tables and stuff, put that in. If you don't care about that, then don't. Once you do all that, go ahead and click OK. And now your new static object is created. All right, with the static prop created, now I'm going to move on to how to create the container object. This one's pretty easy. For this one, I will be using an ammo box that I created, not the makeshift terminal that I showed you earlier. Same process and everything, it's just different object, that's all. First thing you're going to want to do is go into the object window and then scroll down to the world objects and then click on container. Now you're going to want to find a container that's roughly the same size as the one that you're making. Again, usually using the Reference Nif, the Reference Nifs container object in game usually works. You just want it to be about the same size and everything. That's all that really matters. So go ahead and just find one. I'm going to just type in, at this point, we're just going to type in ammo box. Ammo, there we go, right there. Once you find the one that you're going to use, you're going to click on it, right click, and then click duplicate. Double click on the copy of it. First thing you're going to want to do is with the ID, you're going to be typing in NLM. So the suffix that you're using for your specific mods. Minus NLM, it means no alongside fellow mods. You can use anything, but I recommend making a suffix for all of your stuff just to make it a lot easier to find it in Engine. And then you're going to be typing in the name of your object. So I'm still making an ammo box, so I'm just going to keep that name. Then for model, I'm going to go down to edit, click edit again, and then find the model that you're going to be using. Here's the one that I'm using. And then click OK. You're going to want to go over to here, under the preview transform, click this drop down, and then type in workshop. And scroll through here until you find an object that you think just about matches the general size of the object that you're creating. A lot of this has to do with size because of like collisions and previews and stuff like that. Just find one that's generally the same size. You can always come back in here and edit it later if it ends up being too big or too small. Don't trust the way that it looks in the object preview window here. That's not how it's going to look in game. Focus more on the name of the preview transform object. So I'm going to use a toolbox because that's roughly the same size as the ammo box. And then lastly, this could be done right now. However, if you do want it so this object so you're able to put this object on top of like tables and shelves and stuff like that, you're going to want to go down to the actor values and then right click, new. you're going to type in ground. Here, I already have it typed in. Type in ground, and then click workshop, anything is ground. Then click OK. And then just type in 1, and click OK. This is going to make sure that your object is able to read anything as the ground, so it can be put on top of tables and chairs and counters and shelves and stuff like that. If you don't have this in there, then that means that it's only going to snap directly like to the actual like ground or like floors that you build or stuff like that. And in some cases you definitely would want that for like really big stuff. But in this case, this is a pretty small guy, and I want to be able to snap onto tables and stuff. So we're going to put that in. Once you have everything all set up, I'm going to go ahead and just click OK. When it asks you to create a new form, click No, then click Yes. And there you go. Got a new memo box. Lastly, I'm going to be showing you how to create the furniture. So I am not going to be using the makeshift terminal that you've seen throughout the rest of this tutorial for the furniture. I'm going to be using a different chair that I made. It's all the same process, no matter what you're doing, just I'm going to be using a chair that I created earlier. So first thing you're going to want to do is go down to World Objects in the Object window, and then find the Furniture tab. In here, you're going to be finding the furniture that you used earlier in your reference. So for my reference Nif for this chair, I ended up using the high-tech office chair. You can use anything. You just want to make sure that it's something that's like roughly the size of the chair that you want to create. So once you find whatever you're going to be using, you're going to want to right click on it and then click duplicate. Click on this new copy here. Once it's open, going to want to rename the ID to whatever. I usually use a suffix for mine, just so it makes it easier to find in the creation kit later on. So I'm going to type in NLM because that's the suffix that I use. It stands for no alongside fellow mods. And then I'm going to type in the name of the chair. I'm going to type inst for institute, and then chair. And then for the name, I'm going to change it to institute chair. Then for model, click edit. Then click edit again. Navigate to wherever you saved your Nif file to that you added the collisions onto earlier. Click on that and then click open. Here's your chair. Should be looking pretty nice. Then just go ahead and click OK. You can zoom in here and you can get a pretty rough idea about what it'll look like when people are sitting on it in game. Mine's looking pretty good. I lined it up pretty well before I exported it, so that's fine. If you are having issues though, you can just go ahead and edit the transforms in Nif Scope. That's really easy. You just you go into Nif Scope, and then you right click on the object, go down to transform, and then edit, and then you can move it around and then save it and then re-import it, and then just tweak it until it's roughly in the spot that you want it. But in my case, it's sitting just fine. Last thing you're going to want to do is go down to this preview transform. By default, most times, depending on what you selected, might be empty, might already have a preview transform. If it's empty, you're just going to want to click on it and then type in workshop. And then it'll bring you to this list of all the workshop preview transforms. You're going to want to scroll down until you find one that's that should work for you. I'm just going to find a chair that I think will work. Yeah, this one here. I'm going to use that chair. You're going to want to just find something that's roughly the same size. Do not let this box here fool you. This box here is not indicative of what it's going to look like in game. It will look different. It will be like a lot closer, zoomed up and spinning around, stuff like that. Focus more on the name of the object and generally in your head what you think it, how big you think it is and how it's going to look compared to your object. If it's roughly the same size, it should work fine. Once you have that done though, go ahead and just click OK. When it asks you to create a new form, click no, and then click yes. And now you have all of your new. Now you have all of your new things created. These are by default. My suffix is not perfect. There are two things that show up. It's whatever. But these are the two things that we created. We have our static object, our furniture, and our container. Now I'm going to be showing you how to create the constructible object. And the constructible object is the piece of this puzzle that's gonna kind of bring everything together and make it so it shows up in game, and we're able to make it and deconstruct it and move it around and all that fun stuff. To do that, in the object window, you're gonna want to find the items tab, and then click constructible object. In here, you're gonna want to right click anywhere and then click new. With this open, for the ID, always type in CO_first. That stands for constructible object, just makes things easier. You're going to want to type in the name of your object. I'm going to be creating the constructible object for the makeshift terminal. So I'm going to do NLM _ make. I'm going to want to click on the workbench keyword. You're going to want to type in workshop workbench. And then you'll see a couple different options here. You have crafting, decorations, exterior, furniture, interior, power, and settlement. Oh, and also wire. There's really only 4 of these that I recommend for the simple things that we're creating today. I recommend either going with decorations, furniture, interior, or settlement. Settlement is a really good overall one because that will make sure that it shows up in pretty much any settlement no matter what. All this keyword is doing is just indicating what settlements your object will show up in. And so certain settlements have different types of objects that they allow. So some settlements don't allow exterior objects. Some settlements don't allow interior only objects, blah, 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 blah. Going with settlement, usually make sure that it will show up in pretty much any settlement. For this case today, I'm going to be going with decorations because this is a decoration, and it'll also most likely show up in just about it. Then we're going to click on pickup sound. And we are going to type in workshop mode item. All right. And then you got some options here. Just go ahead and pick the one that looks best to you. I'm going to click the, for this first one, we're going to be clicking one of the pickup ones. I'm going to click pickup metal 1 small. Click OK. Then for the put down sound, click select sound. And then you're going to want to select the matching one. So this one is going to be put down metal 1 small. Click OK. So they should be matching. Next thing you're going to want to do is go over to your filter. This is where your suffix comes in because you can just type in your suffix to the filter. And then click the created object dropdown. And then now you only have the items that you created. And it's really easy to just find whatever you want. So we're making the makeshift terminal. Click on that. So now this will create the makeshift terminal whenever used in game. You can change the priority. Priority just indicates where exactly in its category it shows up. The lower the priority, the higher it will show up. So if it's a priority 1, then that means whenever you open up its category that it's under, it's going to be like the first thing that shows up. If you put in like 1,000,000, it's going to be the last thing that shows up. If you put in 0, I believe it just throws it in alphabetically or it throws it in at random. It's one of the two, I don't really remember. But usually I just throw it in at 0. It's unless it's like something really specific that you like really want to make sure that it's first. I mean, I just throw it in at 0 and look for it. So we're going to leave it at 0. Next thing you're going to want to do is go over to the recipe filters box, right click on it, and then click add. Type into here workshop recipe, spell it right, recipe filter. And then this is where a lot of people get confused, and I can definitely understand why, because this is a lot to look at first. But after looking over it for a second, this should actually kind of look familiar to you. These are all the categories in the build menu. And so you're just going to want to pick whatever category you want it to show up in. Generally, do not pick like one of these overall categories. Like, don't put it in like the building category because it's going to have, because this one is like basically just like an overarching category for other categories, and you don't want to throw it into that one. Generally speaking, picking one that has an 03 in it, or even an 04, there aren't very many of those, but picking one that has an 03 or an 04 in it usually tends to be the best because those are almost all just items. Also, don't pick anyone that says Creation Club or anything like that. You don't want to do that. for our purposes today, I'm going to be finding the decorations. So decor. Yep, decor, and then I'm going to be looking until I can find the miscellaneous. All right, workshop, recipe filter, decor, underscore, 02, misc. And this is going to be the miscellaneous, this is going to be the miscellaneous decorations tab. I know this is an O2, and you can pick an O2 if you feel confident that's where it belongs. It's just, it all depends on what you're making and where you want it. But go ahead and just click whatever category you wanted to show up under in the build menu, and then click OK. Now this is the last step, the very last thing that we have to do until this mod is fully working in game. Are you ready? So, for the required items, you're going to want to right click and then click New. In here, you're going to type C underscore and then click this type button. And now all of the different components for building are going to show up first. You're going to want to go around and look until you can find whatever you want to have to use to make it. So I want steel, click OK, and then I want it to cost 2 steel to make. Then click OK, now it shows up there. Now you can click New if you want another material. Let's say I also want I want it to cost circuitry. Click OK, and then we're going to type in 1 circuitry. Click OK. And we're going to also add in the glass. And I want glass. Okay, 1. Okay. All right, and now it's done. Now it's going to cost 1 circuit, 1 glass, and then 2 steel to create this object in the build menu. With that finished, we're going to click OK. And then now, the makeshift terminal is going to show up in the build menu, and we will be able to build it, and interact with it, and play with it, and do all the fun little stuff with it. To really finalize it, go up to File, and click Save, and then type in the name of your mod. I usually do NLM mods underscore, and then the name of my mod. I'm going to call this settlement stuff, and then tutorial file, and then click Save. I don't believe I'm going to be uploading this mod like I did last time. All these assets were mainly just made by me for this tutorial. They weren't made to really be uploaded. I might upload it to the Nexus just for fun, because I might end up adding more onto this mod later, but it just kind of depends. Anyways, now that that's finished, go ahead and create constructible objects. Same exact process. Go ahead and create constructible objects for all of the new objects that you're adding in. Then click Save, and then we're going to jump into Fallout 4 to show you what it all looks like. All right, now we're in game, so we're going to open up the build mode. Oh, I guess I'm broken. So, we're going to go ahead and find it in the decorations. Miscellaneous. Alright, there we go. Makeshift terminal. It's working. Spin it around. We can snap to different objects, stuff like that. Doesn't actually like to snap to workbenches. Let's put it in somebody's house. Snaps to tables though. Table. Put it right there. There we go. Check it out. Then you can scrap it too. Alright, now we're going to build the chairs. Should be right. Yep. Can't find it. There it is. Institute chair. We put that guy. Put it right out here. There we go. Now we got the Institute chair sitting there that we made. I'll test that bad boy out in a second. And then go over to containers. And then ours should be in here some. Oh, right there. Ammo box that we made. That right there. Alright. Now in the ammo box, see, we can store all sorts of stuff in there. Works just like a normal. just like a normal container. The piece de resistance, the chair.
You watch my back, I'll watch yours.
So I have some pieces of clothing clipping through it, but that's just because the clothing that I'm wearing is super bulky, and it's from a mod and it clips through like literally every chair. But it does work. You can weight and everything. All of this stuff has its collisions and everything, so you can't walk right through it. Can't walk right through it. Pull out your gun, test it. See, even makes an impact with it and everything. Pretty cool. Pretty cool. So now you have, now you're able to create 3 different types of objects. You can create furniture to sit on, containers to put your shit in, and decorations to make your house look nice. And that's gonna do it for me. Alright, and that is gonna do it for me. I really hope that you guys enjoyed this video and that it was pretty straightforward. I tried to make this one a little bit shorter than I normally make my tutorials, just because I know when I'm watching a tutorial, I hate when it goes on forever and they just talk about stuff that I don't care about. But try to make it clear, concise, and pretty quick. Now you can make furniture, containers, and decorations. And those are all really the basics. That's pretty much all settlement building, really. So, I hope you guys enjoyed. Remember to go ahead and vote on the next video that I'm going to make. The community poll should be up the moment I upload this video, so you can go ahead and vote right away. If you like this video, I'd really appreciate a like, help boosting the algorithm. I am trying to make this YouTube thing kind of like a thing that I can keep doing, because I really enjoy doing it. So you can go ahead and leave a like. That'd be super cool. If you want to subscribe, that'd be even more cool. And if you have an idea for another video that you want me to make, go ahead and just leave a comment. I read all the comments. I try to respond to as many of them as I can. And if you have an idea, go ahead and just throw it out. I'd love to hear it, and I'd love to make whatever you guys want to see. This isn't fun for me unless you guys want to watch whatever I'm making. So that's going to be it for me. Like, comment, subscribe, do all that fun stuff. Vote. And I will see you guys next time. Bye.